Good morning, all. Today is January 12th, the first meeting of 2023. Welcome, everyone. We abide by Konveyor Code of Conduct, which means please be nice and respectful to one another. And this meeting will be recorded and available in the YouTube for later viewing. So, without further ado, I have pasted the agenda link in the chat. I'm going to do it one more time. Please feel free to add yourself to the attendance. And so the first topic is from Jeff. Do we have Jeff or anyone from the team here? Was I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so quiet in there. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm talking and no one's hearing me. So thank you. Let me see if Jeff could join the call. Right. So while we wait for Jeff, we can move on to the open discussion. I see Christopher is adding something. Christopher, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that today I'll be on the GitOps Guide to the Galaxy podcast, and one of the topics that we'll be talking about is Konveyor. The overall topic will be on how to use GitOps effectively in a large-scale enterprise migration, but a few of the requests to GitOps Guide to the Galaxy have been to have some conversations about Konveyor. So I'll probably spend about a third or half the time just going over some of the things that are going on in this community and how that can impact a GitOps focused migration. So I put the link into the YouTube live, and definitely check it out if you have time. It'll be recorded as well, so I'll send that out to the community sometime once that's available.
It's so cool. Thank you for bringing that up. And I could go on Google, but I'm just gonna come on ask now. Do you have the timings for the YouTube live?
Yeah, let me pull that up. It just changed here a second ago. So it's at 3 p.m. Eastern time and noon Pacific time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions on that? If we could get.
So I had one question. Christopher, I had a question for you. If you know about, this is kind of general in the space, have you seen any tools right now that kind of do something of maybe linting of a project that's been deployed and trying to give some feedback of maybe here are better tips of what to do to get stuff integrated with Argo? Because I'm kind of exploring something in my mind, just wondering, as we're starting to look at all this multi-language stuff, there's the obvious that we have different languages, whatever we're doing, we're trying to refactor. And then I'm wondering, can we also throw in something early that is a simpler example that takes some cube manifests, it kind of looks at the resources and gives back a little bit of feedback that maybe could help somebody? But I don't know what tools to look at. I wonder if you have any pointers.
So Argo has some restrictions already built in where it's a little bit picky, has its own linter, but it doesn't really give much feedback, unfortunately, to the user. And that's actually been one of my big complaints about Argo. To answer your question, no, I have not seen something like that. I've seen some homegrown things with like Cube Linter, but in the way that you're describing, I have not seen that yet, and I think it's actually a shortcoming of Argo right now that we don't get as much feedback as we should from a linting perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, does anyone have any questions on the topic? All right. I think I did not get completely what John said, so I will capture the notes after the recording is available and then go back and add the stuff. So moving on to the next topic from Ramon.
Hi there. So
Hello.
sorry for not writing that up before the session. I suck big time. So yeah, I just wanted to discuss an idea or propose an idea. I see that some folks from Red Hat QE and documentation have joined the call. They are looking into the possibility of collaborating upstream with the Konveyor community, both in the testing strategies, assets, and both documentation. And one of the things that would help us is that introduction to what we're doing for these different teams and other teams that might be wanting to collaborate, is providing us as much early insight of what we're doing as possible. So one of the things that I was thinking about is the possibility of having a special some sort of ritual or ceremony to present each one of the enhancements that we share within the Konveyor enhancements repository. So as you know, when there's a new idea, some new feature that we could implement in Konveyor, we create an enhancement, that we submit a PR. There is a discussion to fine tune and flesh out the enhancement as much as possible, and then it gets merged and we start with the implementation. I thought it would be very helpful, not only for these new teams, but also for the wider community, to have some sort of ceremony of ritual in which once we get to a certain degree of maturity in an enhancement, we present that to the wider community. So we give insight of what's coming up, and also we get an opportunity to have some last-minute feedback to tweak things a little bit. So I'm not saying that session would be the place to discuss the feature itself, because that's what the PR is for, and this is a more long-lasting discussion. But it's a way to maybe figure things out that we might have, we didn't notice when we were putting things together, and also to, again, give some sort of insight of what might be coming up. So I wanted to present this idea to the wider community and see if this could be done in the community calls, or if we should have some spin-off calls for that, and if this feels like a good idea to you all, to all of you, sorry.
I'll just share my point. My thought is, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it sounds great. And when I heard about this, I felt that the community call might be the first venue of where we should do this. Mainly because this is anybody that comes together here can get more information about an upcoming feature. So they get that kind of aspect, they know what's going on. In time, if these conversations take up too much time in the community meeting, then we could always break out and do something that's more ad hoc.
Yeah, that sounds great for me.
What do others think? We got a thumbs up from David.
I agree.
Savitha, all right. Cool. And Rima, when are you thinking we would want to kick this off?
I think regarding what we have in the pipeline right now, we could get started with the migration waves enhancement. I can do that myself and give it a first try, and afterwards maybe we can rotate the presenters for each one of these enhancements. Try to get some sort of format, something like a series of slides discussing the feature at high level, providing some sort of background of the problem that we're trying to solve. I don't know, figuring out the format for the session, and then passing the torch to the next one to keep this whole thing being dynamic.
Yeah, that sounds good. And as you were talking, I was wondering about things here. Is it too early to consider that maybe the content we put together here would end up being a blog we post early on it? Just wondering if there's something like, if we're going to put slides together and we have something that's written, do we want to do in some way where that written stuff can actually be things that go into the Konveyor blog as well? So like maybe there's a Konveyor blog, you can see the stuff, and then during this, we could, I don't quite know how it works out. I'm just wondering, it would be great if we also start thinking about how can we get more blogs out there from more of a engineering community side. I'm wondering if we would want to do that when we have the rough thought of what we're going to build ready, or do we wait until it's actually built and then do the blog at that point?
I would say that we should, or my idea would be to wait for that until the whole thing has been implemented, because there could be some tweaks here and there. But I love the idea of getting a more proactive and lively blog in Konveyor. But it could be also, there could be some technical explanations on the architecture itself, on what we're building, on the API, how to code against this API. As soon as we start developing and designing these new standards within Konveyor, there could be, of course, there's a need for the technical documentation, but also have a more informal approach with a blog post and the explanation and the more backstory, make it a little bit more entertaining than just the bare documentation. That's the way I imagine a technical blog, but that's my take on it.
Okay. Sounds good.
I have one idea. Sorry.
Please.
So maybe we could do quarterly sneak peek of things coming up. We don't have to give all the details, but then it'll be nice since our community is new. Then I can send out. I've been wanting to send out community mails, like every month or like every quarterly, highlighting new contributors, features that we are excited about, and once we mature, maybe deprecations. But right now, all the new features and like how to get started, so that to get so many people, so many eyes on the project. So I was thinking about that. Maybe we could do a feature blog post even before implementing the features, just to like highlight.
Sounds great. This regular thing could be a good idea. I guess that it's like some sort of, and I would say this could be something to foster the engagement. Hey, everyone, we're doing this. We're amidst this thing. We just released this other feature, this and that. That could be interesting. But having a blog post per enhancement might be a little bit of overkill and hard to consume. That's my idea or my opinion regarding that.
And also, like, if we time it right, then we can call out for the Konveyor workshops and like add some links to the videos, like Christopher mentioned, like how to like GitOps and Konveyor stuff, anything that overlaps with Konveyor, interesting things, and like make it like a newsletter and send it like once every quarter. I'm not signing up for once a month. That's too much work.
Yeah.
So I'm like once every 3 months, but I would appreciate volunteers if anyone wants to volunteer. Cool. And I also wanted to add one more thing on this. I know I cut John. I'm so sorry about that. How do you all feel time boxing? Since we are going to discussing these things, like before starting the meeting, we can time box everything. So like demos get 20 minutes and enhancements get 20 minutes or like 15 minutes, and then like open discussions. Perfect.
That sounds great. I think it's a way to keep things, compact and straightforward, and not make this whole thing a snooze fest.
Sounds good. And I'm so sorry, John, I cut you.
No, all good. Nothing. I have nothing important to say.
All right. Does anyone have any other thoughts on this discussion? All right. Moving on to the next one with David.
Yeah. So last Thursday during the add-on sync call, the Move to Cube folks had demonstrated their add-on, and that was really exciting. One of the things that came up in the discussion around their add-on was the idea of having a way of labeling the technology on an application, like basically having analysis add-ons that effectively label applications, so that add-ons like Move to Cube can consume the application as it is, grab all of the labels and facts and everything about it, and make intelligent decisions without requiring additional user input. So the idea would be all analysis add-ons that maybe detect technology would label it in a specific way, so that future add-ons that want to consume that would know how to look for, hey, this is a Node.js application, or this is a Python or Java, and specific technologies, we would label it in a consistent way such that we can say, hey, if you're an analysis add-on and you're going to label it, it needs to look like this. This is the way, the structure, how it's going to look, or maybe it belongs as a fact. I don't know. Such that we can augment the application inventory and add-ons can just consume that data. So I think, so it put it in context, the idea for Move to Cube was to split their add-on as it is into an add-on that labels the technology of the application, and the second part, which does the generation of manifests. So the question then became like, well, how do I properly label the application? So
yeah, David, this is a discussion that we were having like yesterday, Jeff and myself, because the windup add-on or windup CLI is very likely to have this capability of providing technology tags as well. So yeah, we definitely need to find out a way to have some sort of canonical set of technologies. That's very important, to have a consistent group of technology tags that could be used across the different tools. We need to think of a way to have some sort of protected tag type or anything like that. So yeah, there's a lot to be thought, and I'd be open to suggestions. I don't know if we need to play around with the tag hierarchy, or if we need to create a special type of built-in tags or anything like that. But that is definitely a problem that needs to be solved. Although we need to be careful to be able to distinguish between the analysis stuff that might come from Move to Cube or Windup. Maybe we should also think about the possibility of users wanting to differentiate the output from Move to Cube from the output from Windup, because each one of these tools can go on different levels of deep analysis on the core source code itself. And also we should be able to differentiate from the things that, for example, TCA is able to infer from the natural language description, because there is value in comparing what was told and communicated by the customer and what the application ended up looking like. So those are some nuances to take into account when we come up with a solution for that. But yeah, I fully agree with you.
I think we had Sean and Pranav both had hands raised. I see Pranav's hand is still up.
No, I put my hand down. Go ahead, Pranav.
So in analyzers, we are actually kind of doing a similar thing where we generate tags by looking at the source code, and these tags contain information about what technologies the application is. So I was wondering if Move to Cube is doing the same thing. It sounds kind of redundant doing that in the do work part of workflow versus the analysis part.
Yeah, I would agree. I would think that it doesn't make sense that this would happen in do work. I think this would be more of something that when we are trying to get the information of what's there, this would happen. I could see that if we think of Konveyor as this hub or this platform, we probably want to make sure the APIs are well defined for whatever happens on this tagging stuff. We have the capability in custom analyzers to do this. And it could be a case that maybe Move to Cube wanted to carve off a small piece as another custom analyzer. I could see a possibility of something like that, but I'm also with you that there is this degree of doing the same thing in multiple places and solving it again, and then we'd have to figure out how much of that is valuable and what makes sense, what doesn't. I don't have a good feel at the moment.
I think that the use cases could drive that conversation and that decision. So I imagined some time ago the possibility. So since now we have the repository coordinates of each application within the head, and we can have the credentials to access that source code. Imagine that you load up your application portfolio into Konveyor. You have all the applications in there, and then while you are doing things, for example, you are starting with the assessments. Now that you have your applications in there, you correctly set up the credentials, assign them to the applications. What about the possibility of the tool itself being able to run some preliminary analysis on the applications themselves to try to auto-tag the technology stack of each one of these applications? My understanding is that, for example, Move2Cube has a lighter approach to the technology qualification. So maybe on this preliminary background analysis, we could leverage these fast technology identification capabilities of Move2Cube. And then when we get into the analysis phase, we can enhance the information that Move2Cube was able to collect when we run the wind-up analysis or the new analyzer analysis. That could be a use case, but we need to figure that out.
I don't know if we want to layer it like this personally. I don't know, like if we're developing a community of things, don't know why we would have some things be more important than other things. It would just be like all analyses are the same layer, but I think it makes sense to have more than one thing being able to add stuff here. If that's what we agree on. I think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think that would be my perspective on, like, if the Move2Cube analysis is redoing some of the same things that the analysis add-on would be doing, then maybe we don't want that. But I was thinking more of the case where some novel add-on has an analysis that can do something that our analyzers can't. Then we would want a unified way of how that add-on would communicate that technology back to the application inventory.
Right. Yeah, that part definitely makes sense. Happy to get involved in that discussion. We definitely need a way to send that data back into the hub from analyzers. So that would be very helpful.
Is that a core discussion? Is that a core SIG discussion? Is that an add-ons discussion? Just to make sure that we address that on.
Yeah, and this thing, that whole angle of how do we address this, I'm wondering, Pranav, would you be willing to take ownership of this?
Sure.
In the sense that I think the first thing we have to do is get this documented as a, let's say, like, I guess, a requirement that we want to fulfill. So I'm thinking that at minimum, we probably need an issue somewhere. This way the issue can kind of say like, hey, this is something that we want to get, so we can at least get that stuff together. We plan the work, everything else. I would think that, yeah, I mean, this is a good question. Like, would this be, first thing in my mind is this an analyzer discussion? Because I think the analysis was tasked with this even before we went on break of doing this whole thing of technology tagging. And I know analysis group has been thinking about this. And then eventually, as the analysis group thinks about this, I think it comes back into the core. So we can make sure that we have those APIs defined. Where it kicks off to start the conversation, I'm not quite sure. But at the minimal, I think we need something that's captured, so we know that's a requirement. It's something we can talk about, get some designs together. And then I guess it gets more complicated because once we have the approach, we do have to run it through the add-on group too to make sure that at least Move2Cube is aware, help us, give us some feedback. Yeah, it's kind of cute having all these different areas so we can talk about it. So at a minimal, at least we have one point person that can own this. So Pranav, if you can own it, and then if you can start working it so it's documented as a requirement, and then help us so we can get those conversations in the right spot and we can feel what's the right way to do it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Do we have any questions and any more thoughts on that discussion? All right, moving back to the demos. I think I saw Jeff join, and so if Jeff, you are there, can you please feel free to take it away? I'm gonna go check the participants.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to give folks a heads up that about the effort we are in the middle of, in the process of, to make the hard requirement on the RWX volumes optional. And so the approach going forward is to allow the user to specify through the operator whether or not RWX volumes are supported on the cluster, and if they are, everything operates pretty much the way it does now. If RWX volumes are not supported on the cluster, then effectively the shared M2 cache really wouldn't. Well, the M2 cache that's used and shared across tasks would no longer be shared. So really just a heads up to folks about this, and provide an opportunity to ask questions.
Looks like it's clear.
All right, everyone. So do we have any other topic discussion that anyone wants to bring up? Cool. I will see you all in a couple weeks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Abida.